Hello everyone. Welcome back to the YouTube channel Ghost Stories by Uncle Ba Dewey. I hope you all have an exciting time listening to ghost stories. Thank you very much. Before we start, don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel to support Dewey. Now, let's begin with the first story of today's collection. This story was recounted by a female friend whose job was as a staff member at a karaoke bar. After working in Bin Duong for a while, she followed her friend's advice and moved to Vinh Long to work at a karaoke bar there. However, after starting, she was constantly frightened and eventually left the place, returning to Bin Duong. The story she experienced at the karaoke bar in Vinh Long has already been shared before. Today, Dewey will tell you about her time working at a karaoke bar in Bin Duong. Upon returning to Bin Duong, she rented a room in Tan Nguyen to live. The room was clean and well-equipped, and the area was quiet, with many workers living there. After settling in, her younger sister, named Thursday, suggested they both work at a karaoke bar in Dong Nai. Thursday's manager had just left, so she encouraged her sister to apply for the position. She hesitated because she wanted to stay in Tan Nguyen, Bin Duong, but the distance seemed manageable after checking Google Maps. So, she decided to give it a try. On the first day, she noticed 4 or 5 employees, including Thursday, waiting to start work. Since Thursday didn't have a place to stay, she suggested they share a room to avoid loneliness. The next day, they traveled from Tan Nguyen, Bin Duong, to Vinh Q, Dong Nai, taking a ferry, which only took 20 minutes. Upon arrival, they discussed work specifics with the bar owner and began their duties, working from noon until midnight. If business was slow, they could leave by 11 p.m. The first day went smoothly until around 11:30 p.m., when only one room still had customers. She messaged the employee group, asking them to handle the remaining guests, and decided to leave early. She asked the owner for permission to leave, explaining that she had to return to her lodging in Nguyen Hung, Bin Duong. The owner mentioned that by that time, there would be no ferries available. She realized she wasn't familiar with the return route, but Google Maps showed a 43-minute, 30-kilometer path. Despite the distance, they had to return as their belongings were at the rented room. The journey back was daunting due to the deserted roads and lack of houses. Thursday reassured her to follow Google Maps, and eventually they would reach home. After traveling a long distance, Google Maps directed them over a bridge and onto a narrow road. The smaller road was even scarier than the previous one, with no streetlights and surrounded by rubber plantations. Feeling frightened, Thursday suggested finding a place to stay overnight and returning in the morning. However, she insisted they continue, as they were halfway through and could see some locals tapping rubber, which eased their fear slightly. People went to tap rubber, feeling very cold inside, and Thursday kept saying, "Sister, hurry up, get out of this road quickly, I'm so scared." You were also getting goosebumps and said, "Just hang in there, we'll be out of this stretch soon." Both of you were riding along the road, too scared to talk, because it was deserted and had no streetlights. You had to turn on the headlights to see better. Suddenly, the motorcycle started making a sputtering sound, as if you were revving the engine, but it wouldn't accelerate. It was losing power, and when you checked the fuel gauge, it was empty, right at the red line. You both exclaimed, "Oh no, running out of gas at this time, we'll be in trouble." At that moment, all you could do was pray, hoping for some miracle. Everyone knows that when a vehicle is almost out of gas, it sputters and can't run properly. However, if you try to start again, it might go a bit further. Luckily, the motorcycle managed to continue for a short distance. While riding in silence, Thursday suddenly said, "Sister, why do I see someone waving at us from across the road? Is someone asking for a ride at this hour?" You felt a chill and replied, "There's no one there. Stop looking and focus here." Even though you had the headlights on, you hadn't seen anyone on the road. You knew Thursday might have seen something, as the road was very desolate, but you didn't say anything and tried to drive as fast as possible. You sped up, feeling the wind roaring in your ears, scared and praying silently for safety. After a short distance, the GPS notified you to turn right in 600 meters. You sighed in relief and told Thursday, "Once we turn right, we'll be on the main road." But unexpectedly, after turning right, you ended up on an even smaller road than before, surrounded by rubber trees. This road seemed under construction, with trees and other obstacles scattered everywhere. As soon as you turned onto this road, Thursday said, "Sister, the man I saw earlier in the rubber plantation is standing there again. But now he's with a woman. Earlier, I only saw him alone." You looked but didn't see anyone. Knowing Thursday was being followed, you reassured her, saying, "You must be seeing things from drinking too much. Just sit quietly, and I'll drive us home." Both of you stayed silent, but you were very scared, trying to drive further until you finally turned left onto a large road with streetlights and a few motorbikes passing by. As you reached the main road, the GPS said you were 6 minutes from home, easing your worries. You managed to get back to your lodging, and as you arrived at the gate, the motorcycle finally died, completely out of gas. It was fortunate that you made it back, as it had been running on reserve fuel. Inside the room, you hadn't fully recovered from the shock of traveling several kilometers without gas and no streetlights. You both realized how lucky you were and thought that your ancestors must have been helping you. Despite the fear, you went to sleep, preparing for work the next day. Early in the morning, Thursday asked you again, "I'm serious, not joking. Last night, when we passed the rubber plantation without streetlights, I saw that man again, and he was with a woman. Did you see them?" You replied, "I know you saw them, but if you see something strange next time, keep it to yourself and don't tell anyone." After that, you both prepared to go to Dong Nai for work. You rode the motorcycle to the restaurant, worked all day, and nothing happened until midnight. Thursday suggested, "Should we go back to the house tonight? The road yesterday was terrifying. Let's stay here for a day and move our belongings here when work stabilizes." You asked, "Weren't you scared yesterday? Why suggest going back now?" Thursday then proposed, "Let's hire a taxi to take us back tonight. We can bring our stuff tomorrow morning." You agreed, and you both hired a taxi to return to Tan Yuan, Benjum. While in the taxi, you noticed the driver took a different route than the previous night and asked, "Is there another way to get there? Last night, we went through a deserted road surrounded by rubber trees." The driver explained, "This route is faster. The one you took last night is 5 kilometers longer. On the road, I asked if there was a gas station because my car was almost out of fuel. My friend asked, 'Why is your car out of gas now?' There's no gas station on this road. Do you think you have enough fuel to take us to Ben Duong?" I replied, "I think I can make it." My friend thought it was strange because just yesterday we ran out of gas on this road, and even the taxi we took ended up running out of gas. After driving for a while, the taxi driver took a different route than Google Maps suggested. My friend asked, "Are you sure this is the right way? Yesterday, we turned left down by the river." The driver explained that the route they took yesterday was twice as long as this one. Well, my friend checked Google Maps on her phone. It kept saying the driver was going the wrong way and to turn back, but the map in the taxi showed the correct route with 19 kilometers left to go and 28 minutes until arrival. My friend couldn't understand why the same app showed 2 different routes. Was it a Google Maps error or something else? As the taxi continued, my friend noticed a familiar spot and said, "Hey, that's the road we took yesterday." It turned out they had taken a small road that eventually led to the same main road. The taxi finally brought them home, and the driver mentioned his car was also out of gas and asked if there was a nearby station. My friend directed him to a station that opened at 4 a.m. Later, my friend asked Thursday how she recognized the road from yesterday. Thursday said she saw the same old man from the day before, now with a woman and a child, at the same spot. Understanding what Thursday meant, my friend decided not to take that road again and move closer to the shop. Through this story, my friend advises everyone to be cautious when using Google Maps. It's a helpful tool, but it's wise to ask locals for the most optimal route, as Google Maps sometimes suggests longer routes. Despite being past the ghost month, Duy shares another story about offerings to wandering spirits. In 2016, after failing an entrance exam by 1 point, a friend decided to work in Saigon, staying with an uncle. The friend found a job at a restaurant in Tambin District. The restaurant, located on a busy street with many eateries, served office workers during lunch hours. While working, the friend befriended a long-time employee named New, who eventually shared mysterious stories about the restaurant. New worked from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. and then sold drinks until 8 p.m. One night, after closing, after finishing selling water, I was about to go up to the rooftop to get my things for a shower. That day, I absent-mindedly took out my phone and snapped a random picture of the scenery. When I reviewed the photo on my phone, I noticed a mysterious dark shadow in the frame. It startled me, and when I checked the photo again, the shadow had vanished. Since that moment, every night, I felt a heavy dark shadow pressing down on me while I slept. I told the owner, but she didn't believe me, dismissing it as nonsense. I became friends with a co-worker and asked them to stay at the shop with me to ease my fear. On the night they stayed over, we both experienced strange occurrences. At midnight, the owner called us, asking why we hadn't gone to sleep and why we had brought friends over, even though we hadn't. Checking the cameras, there was no one there. We were terrified but tried to stay calm. Around 2 a.m., the owner called again, asking why the lights and fan were still on. I insisted everything was turned off, but when I checked, the fan was indeed running. Despite being scared, I went down and turned it off quickly. The next day, everything seemed normal, but the shop was busy, so the owner hired for more staff, making a total of 6 employees. Things were fine until the day of the Ghost Festival. Nearby shops made elaborate offerings, but our owner did it late and simply. That night, she asked us to make the offerings, but we were young and inexperienced. While setting up, we accidentally spilled water and upset the flowers. We lit incense and waited for it to burn out before cleaning up and going to sleep around midnight. I slept on the ground floor because it was hot, and during the night, I heard noises like furniture being moved. I checked, but everything was in place. At 2:30 a.m., the noise returned, louder. I turned on the lights, but nothing was amiss. Feeling uneasy, I ran upstairs to sleep with my friend. The next morning, I shared my experience, and my friend revealed they had a nightmare about a blood-covered demon threatening us for not being respectful during the offering. We told the owner, but she dismissed it as nonsense. However, the shop's business declined, and eventually, she had to sell it. Before doing so, she warned us not to tell the new owner about our experiences. We realized she might have believed us, but didn't show it. The shop changed hands many times, but no one succeeded in running it. From then on, we were careful and respectful during offerings, realizing the importance of sincerity. After this incident, my friend and I lost contact, but it remains a significant lesson for me. 2 rather short stories were sent to Duway by a friend living in Cambodia. This friend mentioned that the neighborhood where he lives is very strange. To reach his neighborhood, you turn left from the highway onto a small road, and there it is. From the outside, you can see 2 large bamboo bushes at the entrance. The cluster of houses is only about 20 to 30 homes. Not many at all, and it feels quite desolate. Interestingly, by around 6 or 7 p.m., everyone, young and old, retreats inside and shuts their doors. No one steps outside during that time. He mentioned that he doesn't know how other neighborhoods are, but it has something peculiar. Whenever there's a funeral, no one can sleep that night. Because when someone dies, the dogs in the neighborhood howl continuously. Furthermore, every house experiences visits from the deceased, who knock on each door, trying to find their own home. One night, while he was sleeping, around 2:15 a.m., he and his mother heard knocking. His mother knew it was someone asking for their home, so she stood at the door and said, "No, this isn't your home." He clearly heard the person walk away and knock on the next house's door, continuing until they found the right home. At the end of his neighborhood, there's a large river where every month, at least 2 or 3 bodies float by. Some months, there are 4 or 5. His mother sells Thai tamarind by the highway at the entrance of the neighborhood. Every afternoon after school, he would go there to rest. One hot afternoon, he wanted to go home, but his mother didn't allow it, so he stayed outside despite the heat. While his mother was asleep, he sneaked over to an abandoned house nearby. This house had been deserted for so long that its doors and windows were rotting. He found it cool and decided to take a nap there. As he lay down, he saw a shadow swiftly pass by, and then he knew nothing more. When he opened his eyes, his mother was searching for him and found him behind the abandoned house. 2 days later, on Sunday, he woke up early to go to the market to get tamarind for his mother to sell. As dawn broke, he felt a sudden urge to pee and headed to the abandoned house to relieve himself. As he stepped inside, the door suddenly slammed shut. Looking at the central pillar, he saw a man hanging upside down, with black skin and glowing green eyes, sticking his tongue out. Terrified, he ran back to his mother's tamarind stall, telling her he was scared inside. He was so frightened that he was exhausted for a week. After recovering, he dared to go back to his mother's stall near the abandoned house. Even during the day, he could still see the man hanging on a coconut tree next to the house. His mother realized he was still scared, so she took him to a shaman who gave him some protective amulets to drink, which helped him stop seeing the man. Another story involved a rented house in District 5. A girl recalled when she was young, her parents rented a house there. After paying the deposit and rent, the neighbors warned them not to rent the house because it was haunted. People would leave after a month or two. The parents also heard that the house was haunted because of a previous conflict between two brothers over land, resulting in their deaths inside the house. They were buried right under the kitchen. Despite this, her mother wasn't afraid, thinking that as long as they lived well, they wouldn't be harmed and might even receive protection from the spirits. Her parents cooked a meal and offered it at the kitchen, where the brothers were buried, as a way to ask for permission to live there. The girl recalled her mother seeing a man's silhouette eating rice in the kitchen and often seeing him on the stairs. Her siblings sometimes heard water running in the bathroom when no one was there. They were only occasionally startled, not harmed. Later, it seemed they were protected because their parents' business prospered and they bought a house. This new house was abandoned, located in a Chinese neighborhood in District 5. When they hired contractors to renovate the house, your mother felt a chill down her spine. She suspected that someone didn't want them living there, or there was already someone residing in the house. Despite these feelings, the renovations were completed and they had to live there. Your mother even invited a spiritual master to perform rituals and asked for permission to renovate the house. During this process, she felt as if someone was trying to prevent them from living there. Since your parents built the house, strange occurrences began to happen. For example, your father once felt someone pulling his leg while he was sleeping, as if urging him to leave the house. Your mother, while washing her hair, saw two thin, greenish feet and then noticed an old woman with disheveled hair. Your sister also saw this woman. You experienced someone tapping your shoulder on the stairs, and when you turned around, you saw a man's face close to yours, which scared you enough to run upstairs. Your bed was a metal bunk bed, similar to those in dormitories. Your brother slept on the bottom bunk while you were on the top. If someone climbed up, you'd hear the bed creak. But every night you heard the sound despite no one climbing up. Once, your third brother was pushed by a man while showering, causing him to fall and break his leg. When asked, he said he clearly saw the man behind him. Even guests who stayed overnight were scared and preferred to sleep in a hotel, claiming they felt someone pulling their legs, urging them to leave. The disturbances became so frequent that your parents faced business failures. Despite your mother's numerous rituals, the problems persisted. Eventually, she invited a spiritual master who placed eggs and 2 pairs of chopsticks on the altar to seek permission from the spirits. During the ritual, the eggs and chopsticks suddenly stood upright, indicating the spirits did not allow them to stay. The family was advised to move out quickly. Upon asking neighbors about the house's history, they learned that a mother and daughter had previously lived there but committed suicide due to debt. After some time, your family was fortunate enough to sell the house to another family. When visiting later, the new owners reported experiencing similar phenomena. While it was fortunate for your family to sell the house, the misfortune seemed to have transferred to the new owners. Hello everyone. Welcome back to the YouTube channel of Uncle Dewey's Ghost Stories. I hope you have an exciting time listening to ghost stories. Before diving into today's tale, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to support Duy. Today, we continue with stories sent by viewers to Dewey's channel. This episode is quite special because Duy will share tales about amulets and charms, not only from the South, but also from the ethnic minorities in the Northern Mountains. To start, we have a story of a woman whose husband is affected by a harmful charm from another woman. She's seeking help, hoping someone can assist her. Many have messaged Duy after hearing these stories, asking for the addresses of masters who can break charms. Some masters don't charge money, but they only help if there's a connection. Fortunately, many cases have been resolved successfully. Now, let's discuss the situation of this woman's husband. She and her husband were about to get married, having known each other for a long time. However, before meeting her, he had an ex-girlfriend who betrayed him multiple times. After she found a better match, she married another man, leaving him heartbroken for almost a year. Despite being married now, the ex-girlfriend hasn't let go. The woman claims her husband is under a dirty charm, causing him to disappear suddenly. Many masters confirmed he was charmed since their relationship, and the charm still affects him even though it's fading. The husband is also under a new charm, causing him to be dependent on the ex-girlfriend. The situation is beyond the control of some masters. The woman has reached out to Duy, sharing her desperate search for help over the past 2 months, exhausting all resources. Duy hopes to receive information about skilled masters who can assist her. Moving on to the second story, which is quite intriguing. A female viewer shared her experience for the first time. Her parents divorced when she was in 5th grade, around 2015 to 2016. Her father started dating a woman named Mrs. Lu, who had a husband and a child the same age as the viewer. Mrs. Lu claimed her marriage was unhappy, so she sought happiness with the viewer's father. Shortly after they met, her father was diagnosed with severe liver cancer. Initially, they lived separately, but when her father's condition worsened, Mrs. Lu insisted on moving in to care for him and the viewer. The viewer noticed Mrs. Lu constantly demanded her father make rings for her, claiming they were gifts. Her father worked at a jewelry shop. The viewer discovered this when she saw her father polishing rings in his room. He explained it was because Mrs. Lu liked them. Grateful for Mrs. Lee's care, the viewer overlooked these demands. However, her father's condition deteriorated quickly. Mrs. Lu then demanded 300 million VND, claiming she caught an illness from him and needed money for treatment. The viewer refused, leading to a confrontation where Mrs. Lu assaulted her and left. Returning home, the viewer discovered Mrs. Lu had taken her father's collection of watches and lighters from different countries. Despite this, the viewer was relieved Mrs. Lu was gone. Alone, she cared for her father in the hospital. A week later, her father wanted to return to his hometown, feeling weak with a swollen belly. He started behaving oddly, talking about children outside the hospital who wanted treats. He insisted on keeping snacks around him, fearing these imaginary children. Concerned, the viewer shared the story with relatives, hoping to understand her father's strange behavior. Your friend's father was contacted by a man who then reached out to a teacher in CA Mao. This teacher visited your friend's home and instructed everyone to move your friend's father to lie in front of the ancestral altar in the middle of the house. The teacher began performing rituals, and although your friend's father had no visible wounds, a dark, thick substance resembling blood began to seep from his feet as the teacher recited prayers from head to toe. After the ritual, the teacher mentioned that your friend's father was severely cursed and might not survive, given his liver disease and the curse. They decided to invite a monk to chant prayers for 3 days. If your friend's father recovered, he would be cured. If not, he would pass away peacefully without pain. During the 3rd day of chanting, your friend's father unexpectedly sat up, appearing healthy, and engaged with family members. Everyone was hopeful, thinking he had recovered. However, just days later, he passed away peacefully in his sleep, as the teacher had predicted. Your friend stayed in the countryside for 100 days before returning to Saigon. Upon returning, he experienced dizziness, nausea, and difficulty sleeping. Every night between 10 o'clock and 10:40 p.m., he felt restless and anxious unable to sleep due to his pounding heart. On the fifth night, while lying awake, he accidentally placed his foot inside a pillowcase. Suddenly, he sat up and found 2 talismans inside the pillowcase. Shocked, he photographed them and sent the images to an uncle, who advised him to go to Travin immediately. Following his uncle's advice, your friend traveled to Travin to find a Khmer teacher. This teacher did not worship Buddha, but revered certain deities. The teacher, along with 3 other teachers who spoke Khmer, examined the talismans and identified them as low-band talismans. They began the process of removing the curse, instructing your friend to close his eyes. Although they did not touch him, he vomited profusely during the ritual. The teacher explained that the talismans were powerful, requiring 2 sessions to fully lift the curse. Your friend stayed overnight at the teacher's house, finally able to sleep after 5 sleepless nights. During the night, he heard knocking at the door but saw no one outside. The teacher's wife assured him it was the spirits of the curse trying to reach him. The teacher explained that if the opposing curse was strong, the spirits would leave. If weak, they would attack. 2 days after the curse was lifted, your friend experienced pain in his big toes, which the teacher said was the curse leaving his body through his toes. So, it ached for 2 days and then disappeared by itself until that afternoon when the teacher had finished. Before you went home, the teacher made you a woven bracelet to wear on your wrist. The teacher said that with this bracelet on, no one could cast spells to harm your path anymore. The teacher finished speaking and looked at you, asking if he saw a man with yellow skin and a big belly. You replied to the teacher that it was your father. Your father had passed away due to liver cancer. Hearing this, the teacher smiled and said that he saw your father standing behind you, meaning your father was following you. The teacher also explained the reason for the talisman in your pillow. Someone had placed it there to harm you for a long time. However, since you took your father back to the countryside for treatment until the day he passed away, you weren't at the house in Saigon. The house in Saigon was where your father used to live with Ms. Liu, and the whole family lived together there until your father got sick. When he was near death, he wanted to return to the countryside. After your father passed away, you returned to Saigon and slept on that pillow, and that's when you started being affected by the low-band talisman. The teacher described the appearance of the person who put the talisman in your pillow, and from a few sentences, you could imagine that the person the teacher described was none other than the woman named Blue. Before you left, the teacher told you that you were lucky because your positive energy was strong. Even though you were affected by 2 talismans under your pillow, you didn't encounter anything bad or see ghosts or spirits. After that, you went home and have been safe ever since. After hearing Duwei recount this story, Duwei knew that many people would message him asking for the teacher's contact information. Duwei and the teacher had already messaged you for the contact. However, you told Duwei that the teacher didn't treat many people because he didn't do it for money. According to the teacher, if he treated too many people, it would affect his life. So if someone is destined to find the teacher's house, he will treat them. However, it's been so long since you've been to the teacher's house that you don't remember the way. As you mentioned that you used to travel on dirt roads, so now you've forgotten the way. Let's move on to the last story of today's series, which is very thrilling and exciting. Duwei heard it from a female friend living in the mountainous region of northern Vietnam. She said she was very happy to know about our channel, and even happier to know that Duwei acts as a bridge to share stories from all over our country. Therefore, today she shares with us a story she personally experienced, which is very terrifying. She said that people often think ghosts don't exist and ghost stories are fabricated for entertainment, right? She used to think so until these stories happened to her, and now she thinks differently. She no longer thinks as she did before. This female friend was born in a rural area in northern Vietnam, but she didn't mention the province. Her family's life and the village were quite prosperous, with enough food and clothing, not poor at all. In her area, many companies and factories were established. So at that time, when industrial zones were emerging, ethnic minorities from the mountains began migrating to her area to work as factory workers, which was better than farming with little income. At that time, when ethnic minorities from the mountains flocked here to find accommodation, the locals rented houses to them. Her family did the same. They had a large house with 3 spare rooms, so they decided to rent those rooms to the newcomers to earn money. Since they were ethnic minorities newly arrived to work, the locals sympathized and rented houses at very low prices. Her family did the same, renting out 3 rooms and feeling sympathetic towards them. She mentioned that the ethnic people there seemed very healthy, waking up very early, with a family of a couple and 3 to 4 children living in a small room, waking up early to work. Sometimes they worked overtime until 10 p.m. The weather in the mountains was extremely cold, yet they worked in thin t-shirts without feeling cold or anything. As for the children, their parents cooked a pot of food in the morning and left it at home. The children stayed inside all day and just ate when it was time, without causing trouble. Her family felt they were honest, so they sympathized and shared food with them. Parents worked all day, leaving young children, sometimes just 3 to 4 years old, locked inside all day. At that time, after school, she would go down to play with the children because their parents were always working. She was free, so she played with them, but strangely, whenever she went down to play, the children never let. Not allowing strangers to enter the house is a good thing. You don't think much about it, as everything seems normal. However, one night, your mother asked you to go down to the rental houses to collect rent because it was the time of the month to do so. It was 9 p.m. on a Sunday, so the tenants were not working. As you approached the door of one family's house, you heard whispers in the ethnic language of the Thai people. You couldn't make out what they were saying, but you tried to listen closely. You could hear the wife speaking angrily in the ethnic language, while the husband was chopping something loudly with a knife. You thought they were arguing or breaking things in the house. So you angrily pushed the door open and asked what they were doing in your house. As soon as you opened the door, you were faced with a horrifying scene that you would never forget. The couple stopped and stared at you. In the middle of the room was a wooden platform with 4 frogs nailed down, their blood dripping onto the floor, emitting a foul odor. Near the altar, there was an upside-down skull filled with black powder, with 3 incense sticks burning on top. Next to the skull was a photo of someone, possibly a relative, in a yellow charm with red, blood-like writing. You were frozen in shock at the gruesome sight. The wife turned to you, glaring, and said, "You saw it, so you must bear it yourself because you barged in without knocking." You were stunned and left immediately, planning to get your mother to resolve the situation. Unfortunately, when you reached home, your mother was out. When you returned to the house, the couple had quickly packed up and left, leaving behind a bundle of money, paying you $5 million for the rent, even though it was only $3 million per month. A few days later, you forgot about the incident since the house was no longer rented out. However, strange things started happening to you. A week after the event, while sleeping, you dreamed of water dripping from the ceiling into your mouth, with a salty and metallic taste like blood. It was so disgusting that you wanted to vomit, but couldn't. The following Friday, while asleep, you didn't dream of water, but saw a woman in traditional Thai attire holding a knife. One of her legs was severed at the knee, and she walked with one leg. Although it was just a dream, you knew she was not normal. You struggled and decided to tell your mother, who was spiritually inclined and followed Buddhism. She advised you to take a week off school, and she would take you to Chao Bang to see a spiritual teacher she knew. You agreed and took a sleeper bus to Chao Bang with your mother. The bus had 2 levels, and only 8 people were traveling at night. The driver suggested you and your mother take the upper level for comfort. You were tired and fell asleep, still hearing some noises. Your mother was breathing heavily because she was in a deep sleep, exhausted from the long drive. You fell asleep quickly, too, until around 1 a.m. when thirst woke you up. As you got up to find a bottle of water, you heard whispering sound from the upper floor. It was strange because only you and your mother were supposed to be there, while everyone else was asleep downstairs. As you searched for your water bottle, you glanced down the hallway and saw the woman from your dreams, an ethnic woman with long hair dressed in traditional clothes. Seeing her again made your heart pound, especially since you had dreamed about her the night before. She was standing at the end of the bus, and the dim purple night lights made everything feel like a horror movie. You felt like you were seeing her for real, not dreaming. Your mother was sleeping soundly beside you, but the woman seemed to be crawling towards you, one hand gripping the bus floor and the other holding a hook-shaped knife, scratching the floor as she approached. You felt like you were about to die from fear. Suddenly, the water bottle fell to the ground, waking your mother. Despite being a deep sleeper, she was sensitive to any noise. She shook you awake, and you realized it had all been a nightmare. You were drenched in sweat, feeling as cold as ice. After calming down, you shared the dream with your mother. She advised you to try sleeping again, saying she'd keep watch. But you were too scared to sleep, so you stayed awake with your mother until you reached Chow Bang. Once there, your mother called a friend, and you both stopped at a roadside restaurant for breakfast. You had no appetite, but knew you needed to eat for the upcoming hike. While eating, an old woman passed by your table and said, "Those who offend others without apologizing will see things they shouldn't and face death." Her words puzzled you and your mother, who tried to follow her, but she disappeared quickly. You felt weak, as if your life was hanging by a thread. After breakfast, you followed your mother's friend's directions, hiking a long and winding path up the mountain. It was a tough journey, asking for directions multiple times, starting at 6:30 a.m. and arriving at the house by 8 p.m. The area was remote, with houses spaced 15 to 20 meters apart. The house was small and isolated, with yellow lighting inside that added to your fear. The walls seemed to be made of rough earth, adding to the eerie atmosphere. At the entrance, you saw a staff with a skull covered by a thin cloth, which frightened you. Your mother explained it was a guardian spirit. She knocked on the door, and an old woman greeted you, speaking a mix of your language and hers. She told you that you had committed 4 major offenses against the Thai ethnic group's spiritual beliefs: eavesdropping on their rituals, entering without knocking, seeing their sacred offerings, and not apologizing. These offenses angered the woman, and the money she left, tainted with frog blood, was meant to summon spirits. You should have discarded it instead of picking it up, summoning a demon to harm you. The old lady said that those who commit these mistakes will die 53 days after seeing those who practice witchcraft. The old lady continued, "You're lucky to have come here early, or else you wouldn't have survived this ordeal." You were terrified, unable to believe that a carefree student like yourself could commit such grave offenses against the customs of your community. Faced with life and death, you and your mother pleaded with the old lady for help, as you were the only daughter in the family. Your mother offered her money, but the old lady refused, saying money was not important. Instead, she wanted you to become her adopted grandchild and visit her home 3 times a year. You agreed, and her remedy was to give you a peculiar plant. She instructed you to feed it with egg water every morning and evening, as the plant consumed eggs. The spirits within the plant were tamed and would not harm you. They would only aid and protect you. If you sincerely practiced, the plant would bloom in 100 days, allowing the spirits to reincarnate. That night, you dreamed of a girl your age wearing traditional Thai clothing, following you. Behind her, you saw the shadow of a legless woman who had previously haunted you on a sleeper bus. This time, she kept her distance, merely watching you. The next morning, as you prepare to leave, the old lady promised to remove the curse within 2 days. If unsuccessful, you would need to replace the plant every 100 days. Fortunately, she succeeded in breaking the curse. She explained that your friendship with the children of a couple who practiced witchcraft spared you from their full wrath. You later learned that the couple had cursed their employer after being overworked and underpaid, leading to a tragic accident for the boss, who ended up in a vegetative state. The couple then disappeared, leaving the area. This story reveals the mysterious nature of ethnic witchcraft, particularly among the Thai people of the Highlands. As we conclude this tale, remember to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Share your thoughts in the comments, and stay tuned for more captivating stories. Goodbye for now.